Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Ambassador, thank you for being here again and all the work that you're trying to do. I want to touch on the subject of currency because to me that's, if a country is going to cheat by devaluing its currency for the exclusive purpose of making its products look cheaper by keeping its currency value down, it obviously hurts American companies and American workers because it's tougher for us to sell our products to those countries that are devaluing their currency. It makes it tougher for our companies to compete with those competitors in that devalued country when it comes to selling those products, our products, against their products in other countries because they've got that advantage when it comes to currency. And I'm very concerned that we have yet to hear that this is an issue, currency manipulation, that will be included in any trade agreement. And I know that often there's discussion about how you can do this through other fora, but my sense is that we're not taking this as seriously as we should. From left to right, economists tell us that we're losing somewhere between 1 million to 3 or 4 million jobs by allowing countries to manipulate their currency and still bring products into the U.S., dump them in our country. So I'm wondering if you can go through with me the 4 factors that the IMF considers relevant to determining whether a country is manipulating its currency. The first one is excessive foreign exchange reserves. If a country has really large surpluses and reserves of foreign currencies and it still has a really low value currency, something's up. Well, my understanding is that the United States has the 19th largest foreign exchange reserves, less than countries like Thailand and Algeria. In fact, our reserves, foreign exchange reserves, are 25 times smaller than China's. Would that be a factor that we would concern ourselves with if we're trying to include currency manipulation in any agreement because we might be concerned that someone would accuse us of currency manipulation?
Well, Congressman, let me answer the question this way. As you know, this is an issue of high priority, and you're right, we have been pursuing it through a number of means, whether it's bilaterally, through the IMF, as you note, as well as through the G7 and the G20. I think we share the same concern about the impact of this.
But Ambassador, I'm going to run out of time. I'm trying to figure out which of these factors we're concerned will impact us and will be accused of foreign manipulation of our manipulation of our currency if we don't include, if we try to include a deal on currency manipulation in a trade deal. So do you think that we could be accused of holding excessive foreign exchange reserves?
Again, I'm going to defer to the Treasury Secretary, who is in charge of this.
Okay, so let me ask you this.
Gentlemen, you'll just very briefly, we're going to have the Treasury Secretary here on Tuesday.
I understand. But again, Mr. Ambassador, you've been talking about intellectual property. That's usually handled by the World Intellectual Property Organization. You've talked about issues of labor. That's usually handled by the International Labor Organization. So I'm hoping that you're willing to talk about currency manipulation, which is one of the, I think, the severest forms of imbalanced and unfair trade that a country can get engaged in. Sometimes it's tough for some countries that don't have real strong institutions to enforce laws when a business is out there undercutting American industry. You know, you have to go after those businesses. But when a country itself is manipulating its currency to gain an advantage over Americans, American companies and American workers, that I think is despicable. And if we don't try to do something to avert that, we're essentially sending a very clear signal to those countries. We want to deal with you. We don't care if you enforce because we're going to let you yourself violate the agreements so you can let your businesses do the same thing. Second factor that the IMF typically considers in determining whether a country is trying to manipulate its currency to its advantage is that the country has a long and sustained surplus. I think we can move very quickly past that one because it's been quite some time since the United States has had a long and sustained surplus. The third factor would be protracted large-scale intervention in currency markets. We rarely, unless you can tell me otherwise, purchase foreign currencies, and certainly we haven't done it in some kind of protracted or large-scale manner. And the fourth factor that the IMF considers is fundamental misalignment of currency. Fundamental misalignment, meaning it's valued in ways that it shouldn't be. If anything, our dollar right now is overvalued, not undervalued. And so I'm wondering which of those 4 factors we're concerned we would be found in violation of if someone were to attack us for trying to manipulate currency by doing the quantitative easing policies that the Fed Reserve has done, which has helped keep interest rates low and allowed Americans to afford to buy a home and a car and so forth. I just am concerned that we see no action on the part of the administration on something that bipartisanly, an overwhelming number of members agree on.
Thank you,
So I hope
Mr.
you'll get back to us on that.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I yield back.
Mr. Record's recognized.